Pawn shop employees of Reddit, what is something people think is collectible or worth a lot of money, but is actually relatively worthless? Swarovski crystal ain't worth shit. People don't seem to understand that it's glass and not some kind of semi-precious gem. That said, their beads are high quality and it shows in your work if you do that kind of stuff. But I can imagine that they are worthless to a pawn shop. State quarters full set. So many grandmas think a full book with all the state quarters there are priceless. Worth exactly as much as 50x.25. Especially because, at least in the city I lived in, when I was collecting them, you could go to the bank and specifically purchase a specific state's quarter. I have the mint set for the state quarters. It's worth like $1 more. Maybe a dumb question, but how much do you buy a quarter for? At a bank, a quarter. What a deal. Pawn shop employee here. Just a friendly reminder that no one wants to buy your great grandmother's china set. Silverware at the same time. Almost all of it is just plated. And even 90% silver is not worth much unless you've got some weight. My family is in a weird position right now because both sets of my grandparents and one of my great aunts left their huge sets of fine silverware to my parents, and my parents have their own set of silverware they got when they got married. My brother and I are going to inherit 2 sets of silverware each. I'm planning on getting married in like a year and a half, if things go well, and who fucking knows if anyone in my boyfriend's huge, traditionally minded, super Catholic family is going to give us his silverware set. I wouldn't put it past them. He's also the oldest child of his family and oldest grandchild, so there's a solid chance he could inherit a set as well. By the time all's said and done, you'll have a dedicated room for silverware. You can build a vampire fort. Jewelry, especially diamond rings. Yeah, you paid thousands. It's worth considerably less. Langabaja baskets. The next state over there is a now defunct basket making company whose HQ is a giant basket. They were a thing for a while, similar to Beanie Babies, until the bottom fell out of the market. People were buying these things as a long-term investment, but they are practically worthless now. People think they still have value. I was gonna say the same thing as well. Just because you spend $1,000 at Zales doesn't mean that the item is valued at $1,000. You're basically paying for the brand. Go to a local pawn shop and get yourself something way nicer for way less. That's what I always recommend. You're also paying to get exactly what you want. Rezel makes it a random piece of jewelry. You'll get a C diamond or VS diamond at a pawn for the price of a shitstone at Zales. Shitstone. I believe the proper term is chocolate diamond. Baseball autographs after like 1935. Willie Mays, Ted Williams, Mickey Mantle. Yeah, they sign thousands of things. Often lowers values of their cards. Ike. Derek Jeter came to my elementary school when I was in 4th grade and we lined up to walk out of the auditorium so he could sign a baseball card that they issued to every one of us. I had no clue who he was and cared nothing for baseball, so I just walked past him. I sometimes wonder if that was a bad move on little 10-year-old diorama S part, but I feel a little better knowing it wouldn't actually be worth anything today. I have a signed Jeter card from his high school team. I'm told it's worth a couple of bucks. Ken Griffey Jr.'s rookie card, Michael Jordan's rookie baseball card, apparently not worth the card stock they were printed on. The entirety of the Topps baseball cards from the year I was born, never seen the light of day. $25. I caught a Jeter foul ball in the upper deck, kept the ball, and had him sign another ball for me through someone my dad worked with. More sentimental than anything. He's still my favorite player. Fine art. Every once in a while, someone finds an old master drawing, etc. in their attic, but for the most part it's mostly junk by amateurs. Also, just because family law claims a painting is by such and such a person, without concrete documentation, that claim is worthless. Edit. As a sap, don't take fine art to a pawn shop. If you have any inkling that a work of art is worth something, go to an auction house or professional appraiser. Fine. I won't show you my great grandmother's prized sculpture by Michelangelo she picked up in Japan on her honeymoon. Michelangelo-san. 7-year-old laptop. ISITWORTHSE lines in GONEBAY. Yeah. You'll get $30 for it, have to box it up, and pay for shipping, and then eBay will take another 10% commission on top of that. Maybe $10 profit if you're lucky, not including the time and energy it takes to do all of this. I used to work in a computer store for a while when I was a kid. When it comes to old laptops, the way to maximize money from them is to disassemble them and sell the bits individually. Something that would sell for 30 quid as a whole, you can harvest 120 quid or more worth of spares just from the plastics, keyboards, touchpads, and motherboards. Sometimes more if it was a popular model. There is a time cost to disassembling, testing, and listing stuff individually, but as a 19-year-old, my time was cheap. I sell things online, and one thing people never seem to understand is that just because you paid a certain amount for something doesn't mean it's actually worth anywhere near that. Even worse, often they think it's worth more than they paid for it because they are just that savvy. In the auto industry you see it with truck guys all the time. Some jackass goes out and buys the biggest truck they can find, but the payments eat them alive. So a year later they're at a dealer trying to get out of it. Yeah, its sticker price is $56,000, but I got it for $40,000. Great deal. Our used car manager says he will give you $32,000. Man, that's crazy. That's a $56,000 truck. Then you find out they were hoping to get $52,000 for it because someone would have to pay $56,000 brand new. It's like, no, they'd pay $40,000 brand new, you know that, because that's what you paid. And that's brand new, not a 6-month-old truck with a dented driver door and 12,000 miles. Shit, I had one kid come in with this 25-year-old Chevy truck in rough shape and a broken odometer. He told me how he bought it for $750. He was offered $750 for it, and he was insulted because it was at least worth $3,000. Mayo, I can't imagine a worse way to bury the lead than to tell someone you're trying to sell to what you bought the thing for. Literally no one is going to meet or go higher than what you just declared the item is worth. Same on Craigslist. People are delusional. There is a conspiracy theory I read in a vintage sewing machine group that the real reason you see older Singer machines pop up for insane prices from time to time is because it's a money laundering scheme. You put the ad up, mark it a few days later as sold, screenshot it in case the IS comes looking, put the money in a legit bank account and toss the $15 machine you just sold for $1,500 into the trash. After watching ads for a few months I'm beginning to think there is something to it. Not exactly this but similar. I worked in a used bookstore for years. We offered cash and store credit for trade-ins. So many people couldn't grasp that if we are selling a book for $3, it meant we would buy it for way less than that. They'd haul in a box of trash expecting a grand payday. They also didn't understand that a book being a mega bestseller or on an opera list or made into a movie years ago made it less valuable for us. If 10 mil people bought the book in 2012, then 2 mil have probably already traded this in, and the other 8 mil still have it and aren't likely to buy more copies. No, you aren't getting $10 for the Da Vinci Code because we have 2 shelves full of copies selling for $6 each right over there. Pawn shop employee here. There's a lot but one that stands out to me right now are watches. Brands like Fossil, Michael Kors, Citizen, etc. cost you over $100 at stores like Masses, but we typically sell them for about $40, even in like new condition. When something goes from new to used, the value of said item goes down a lot. I made this mistake when I was younger. I got a great deal on a Seiko dive watch and decided to turn around and pawn it. When I handed it to the employee, he took a deep breath and explained to me what retail markup is and what makes some watches more valuable than others. He even took out some Rolex and other expensive watches he had behind the counter and explained why they were heavy, the different types of movement, how they worked, etc. It must have been a slow day because he spent about an hour teaching me about watches. Really cool guy. I went to a Rolex store once just to gawk. There were no real customers, so the sales guy was just talking about the different aspects of nice watches. He pulled out a $30,000 Rolex with a meteorite dial and put it on my wrist so I could feel the weight. I was so anxious having something that valuable on me that I just stood there awkwardly with my arm frozen out in front of me until he took it back. Same. Except the watch he put on me was $67k. I didn't even ask to see it. Wasn't dressed nice. Honestly was dressed like a hobo compared to how people typically dress at that mall. But I guess you don't make sales if you make assumptions instead. The Silicon Valley software engineer look. Very nice. Lately I've been playing a game in SF when I see certain types of people on the street, homeless or startup founder. Most second-hand electric guitars are significantly less expensive than they are when brand new, even if it is a major brand like Gibson or Fender. People would get offended at the offers we would make them because they didn't understand what a retail markup is, and they didn't realize that most guitars lose 50% of their value the moment you purchase them. I'm a guitar and watch nerd. In both markets it's critical to buy used. There are so many nice used guitars and watches that can be bought, enjoyed for a few years, then sold for what you paid for them, that it's pointless to buy new. No shit, you're gonna lose money. Pawn shop employee here. Get a ton of people bringing TVs in thinking they are going to get $100+, but the market is so oversaturated, you're most likely gonna get less than 50 even for your 60-inch TV. Not a pawn shop employee, but I flip things, and one thing that a lot of people misunderstand is comic books. They're usually not worth more than a couple bucks, unless you go really far back, like 50s/early 60s. Even then they need to be in excellent condition. A few scuffs around the edges, and a bit of fading, can easily make a $1,000 book worth $50. Not a pawn shop employee, but I'll share what the guy I went to told me. I priced out some coins and a watch for my dad's estate, and the watch, even though it was in excellent condition, and from 1905 was worth like $125. The coins were basically worthless. He told me go skip these across a pond if you want to get any enjoyment out of them. Similar to this, I collect stamps, and pretty much everyone who does this still is a few decades older than me. I get stamps based on if I like them, but some of these old guys are obsessed with value, apparently not looking around and realizing there is no one to sell to. Similarly, no one will bother to look at your granddad's stamp album after he dies, unless it's all the stamps from X country or similar. Collectible items. Just because you learn her 2-in-1 bidet and water bottle says it's collectible doesn't mean that anyone wants it. I worked at JCPenney when he bought it. We sold these $150 retail, $50 wholesale, ridiculous markup, NASCAR jackets. We didn't even carry Earnhardt jerseys initially, but after he died, we got thousands in, just in our dinky little rural store. We sold those fuckers, $50 wholesale, for $300 each. Every Jim, Bob, and Harry from 4 counties around came in and bought one. Literally every single one of them remarked at how rare those are going to be someday. Eventually the shoppers died down, probably after 2 to 3 months, so we clearanced them out for about $30 each. Ridiculous. What is something people think is collectible, but is actually relatively worthless? Internet points. You'd be surprised. There's a marketplace for roll dice accounts with karma, purchased by marketers who aim to influence public opinion about companies and subtly promote products. Fad toys like Beanie Babies that everyone thought would be worth a ton of money. If the thrift stores are full of piles of it, it is worthless. If the pawn shops are full of it, it's also worthless. If everyone thought it was going to pay their retirement, it's worthless. Clothing. I know most pawn shops don't sell clothing, but clothing is not worth what you pay for it once you remove the tags. Also, most clothing that you think is worth money is not. Most small brand clothing that you pay $50 for will sell for about $5 per item on eBay, if it even sells at all. Don't even get me started on what those items are originally tagged. If you wear it once, the depreciation is probably 80% of what you paid for it, or even more, and that would be for the higher end brands. I deal with retro toys and I've never heard truer words. Most of the shit that people collect is actually less valuable because everyone has one. The $30 mint in box collector's figure in your house is probably worth about $30. The random shit your kid is playing with and trashing as we speak, that's what will be worth bank 20 years from now, because there won't be any left. I've got an attic full of old Star Wars toys that I played with when I was a kid. Every time a new movie came out before Disney bought the rights, there would always be a huge uptick in toy sales. Some of the stuff I have from the late 70s and early 80s is worth a little, but I've heard all the later released toys are practically worthless barring a few rare exceptions. The stuff I have might net a couple grand at best. Not the investment I thought it would be when I was younger. I bought the first line of Phantom Menace figures and hung on to them for 17 years thinking they would appreciate in value. Nope. I eventually gave them to my nieces 2 years ago who promptly tore open the packaging and played with them. Sounds like you got some value out of them then, at least. Yes, it was nice to finally unload them and watch them being played with by kids. I'm not a pawn shop employee, but I hacks a friend who was. Said that people kept bringing an old PCS. He hated it because these people kept thinking they were worth a lot because of the age. The only old computer he got that was actually worth something was a 97 20th anniversary Macintosh that he bought for just over $1,500. They sell now for over $2,000. Said it's the most expensive thing he has ever bought. Pawn shop employee here. Pretty much anything that isn't guns or gold is almost worthless. Even most modern guns are mostly made of polymer, aka plastic. TVS especially. I know you pay $2,000 for your 50 inches plasma TV, but it weighs £1,000,000 and I can get a brand new 55 inches 4K smart TV for $250 at Walmart. Things don't hold value. This job has given me such an appreciation for what matters and what doesn't. If they sell it at a pawn shop, it's worth a couple bucks. If they don't, it's garbage. The only things that actually have value are people and experiences. My cousin worked at this pawn/thrift store in our hometown that was in the middle of nowhere. One thing that was always common were those old creepy dolls made with glass faces, real hair, etc. He's told me stories of people fighting over these dolls, but in the end they couldn't use them for anything. The dolls would be so old and fragile that even touching them was a risk of the whole thing breaking apart. Sure, you could collect them, but there were a lot of problems that got in the way of them being worth anything. Edit. I talked to him last night about this. He told me the story of how he was asked to put one on a shelf one time in just a few seconds. After he had carefully placed it on the shelf, the head tilted and rolled off. Never before had he screamed so loudly. To his confusion, someone still wanted to buy it. There was also this investigation that happened because of a suspicion that a doll in the store was grave robbed along with a few other things, yet this old woman still wanted to purchase the doll. When she heard that the doll had been taken into investigation by police after, she threw a fit, swearing more than my cousin had ever heard in his life. In the end, the doll was confirmed to have been grave robbed, to my cousin's trauma of just making it more creepy. You kidding me? Old creepy broken dolls should be worth more than mint. They make way better decorations for guest rooms, attics, and basements. Mint condition, they are just hobbies for sad lonely people. Poor condition, they are the perfect accessory for people found dead with hundreds of tiny stab wounds. I work at a hobby shop, not a pawn shop, but we buy and sell collectibles. Top vote goes to comic books and Pokemon cards. I've literally had people come in with garbage bags full of crumpled comic books from 20 years ago that look like they were buried in a swamp, expecting thousands of dollars for them. Likewise, Pokemon was the hottest media franchise in the world when it came out. Everyone had them. Many still do. Lots of new cards are actually worth more than the old base set rares. If you're going to sell anything, do your research. For your sake and the vendors. I don't understand how someone can try to sell something and have no idea what it's worth. If you don't even have a frame of reference for what a fair price is, what do you hope to accomplish? At that point, you're just using your willful ignorance as an excuse to assume you're getting ripped off just because you, like 99% of people, don't have a treasure trove of collectibles. Not a pawn shop employee, but I was into the used video game market for 9 years of experience. People often fluctuate games incredibly wavy a lot of the time. Resellers can scam you easily if you do not pay attention. If you are paying $20 for Super Mario Bros. On the Northeasts because it's the first game, and because it was on the Northeasts, you're getting scammed. It is roughly worth $5 at most, no matter if it was with Duck Hunt or triple bundled with Duck Hunt and World Class Track, I believe. And you need to understand, most games that are loose, no box, no manual, just the cart or disc itself, will lose a lot of value and be worthless. The only exception is the game. If it's the original Chrono Trigger on the SNES, then it's going to be sold highly and will have value. Normally a lot of good solid RPGs from the SNES era will typically be hard to get cheaply, and understandably so. You'd be surprised, even, how consoles even get mixed up like this too. Yeah, the Northeasts'll had model 001 printed on them. Just because yours has it, does not always mean it's the first model released. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and click that bell to turn on notifications, so you'll be sure to know when the next video comes out. Want to watch some more? Check out my other videos. I really do appreciate everyone who helps make these videos possible. And as always, thanks for watching.